Well, we've heard a lot about influencers, and sometimes those influencers, is that? It is. Sorry. So paranoid about it now. Sometimes influencers push us towards the good, and they inspire us, and they help us to overcome our selfishness, and we do something, and we commit. And sometimes those influencers, they push us to the bad. Sometimes they promote in us positive traits, and we inspire others, we connect with others, our relationships deepen and they improve. And sometimes those influences, they send us into shadow realms where our own personal darkness grows, and thoughts that we should not have breed, and they blossom. Influence and influencers. And we're in the midst of a series of looking at and learning from the stories of 4 female influencers of the Bible. And we're now in episode 3. Today it's Uriah's wife and the frailty of kings. My dad's parents were farmers, and they lived on a farm in farm country. And we used to visit their farm 2 or 3 times a year. And sometimes when we were there, we got there and the corn was taller than we were. My brother and my cousins and I would sometimes go out and play in those cornfields. We'd play hide and seek, and sometimes we'd run on secret missions and imagined explorations of different kingdoms or adventures. And our imaginations could just soar in this environment. There were a couple of old barns on the property as well, and they were amazing for exploring. And even better, we were taken aside and warned periodically that the floor might give out in some places. And just amazing opportunities for young boys. So much imagination, so much exploring. They had a relatively small farmhouse. It was filled with peculiar aromas, not like my house at home. It was not so great for exploring, but going upstairs was still kind of fun because of how they'd put the place together. Narrow staircases, some low ceilings, and crawl spaces, a bunch of crawl spaces. And it never stuck out to me that in the main room that we used as the dining room for the big gatherings, there was a door that was never opened. We were allowed to go pretty much anywhere we wanted, but never into that room. And you might think that would be the biggest temptation ever, but it wasn't. It was inside and always under adult supervision and always surrounded by boring adult conversation. And we'd be outside as much as possible until we were called in to eat. And that's just the way things were. And I don't remember exactly when, but somewhere in my teens, things had changed. I discovered that the closed door was now open. So I took a peek in. And it was pretty much just like I figured. Just another plain old, boring room. Like a spare bedroom. No big deal. When I was in my late 20s, after I'd been married for a couple of years, my aunt once made an offhand remark. Caught my attention. And then we had some more follow-up questions. And we discovered that I had another uncle, another brother for my dad that no one talked about. And he lived and had been confined to that bedroom for basically my whole life until he died, which I didn't hear about. He was born with some mental and physical challenges, and they had hidden him away. How wild is that? My own extended family had this well-known secret. There was no reason to talk about him, apparently. And I was shocked that I never knew about him until I was almost 30. And then you know what I learned? I learned that this sort of thing was pretty common, if not exactly the same, still similar. And every family has embarrassments that they try to hide, or stories they prefer remain untold. And when they're exposed, it's usually a scandal. That's what's happening now, thanks to at-home genetic testing kits designed to discover your ancestry and uncover hereditary health risks. Millions of people are doing this, and their DNA is now registered with these companies, and with the unexpected side effect of this technology being that skeletons hidden in many families' closets are being exposed. The infidelities of grandparents, unknown previous marriages, the discovery of undisclosed siblings and half-siblings are rewriting what we thought we knew about our own family trees. In some cases, the DNA companies have faced lawsuits for exposing long-buried family secrets. Our desire to keep family skeletons in the closet is what makes the inclusion of Bathsheba in Matthew's telling of Jesus' genealogy so surprising. As we learned last episode, Matthew carefully curated his genealogy at the opening of his gospel in order to emphasize Jesus' messianic identity as the son of David, heir to David's throne. Even the numeric structure of the genealogy was a code to emphasize his link to King David. Therefore, one would expect Matthew's genealogy to celebrate and to idealize Israel's greatest king. But his choice to highlight Bathsheba does precisely the opposite. Now we're going to take a look at that genealogy. We've done it a couple of times already, and this time I'd love it if you could read along with me. And yeah, we might pick up speed, and yeah, we're going to do some of those names that are a little hard, but you've been hearing them, and you're going to be good. This is going to be fine. Verse 1, here we go. This is the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, son of Abraham. I'm on my own here. 2, Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac, the father of Jacob. Jacob, the father of Judah and his brothers. 3, Judah, the father of Perez and Zerah, whose name was Tamar. Perez, the father of Hezron. Hezron, the father of Ram. 4, Ram, the father of Abinadab. Abinadab, the father of Nahshon. Nahshon, the father of Salmon. 5, Salmon, the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. We talked about her. Boaz, the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. We talked about her. Obed, the father of Jesse. 6, and Jesse, the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother had been Uriah's wife. You did it! And unlike the other women mentioned in the genealogy, Tamar, Rahab, and Ruth, the inclusion of Bathsheba, that's not a way of honoring her courage or her faith. And Bathsheba's story does not foreshadow a significant theme of Jesus' life or ministry. This is because, unlike other women, Bathsheba is not mentioned because she is a hero, but because she's a victim. Matthew uses her to spotlight the terrible abuse of David, who used his power differential as king to take another man's wife, to conceive a child with her, and then to murder the man to cover up his sin. And that's why Bathsheba is not mentioned by name in the genealogy. Instead, she's simply identified as Uriah's wife. And with this phrase, Matthew is emphasizing the story of David's rape, or some people charitably call it adultery, and murder, rather than anything admirable about Bathsheba herself. So the obvious question we got to ask is why? Why would Matthew do this? What are you up to, Matthew? If his goal throughout the genealogy has been to emphasize that Jesus is the son of David, then why shine a light on David's worst sins and greatest failures? Matthew could have just named Bathsheba without reminding everyone that she was another man's wife. Or he could have ignored her altogether, as he did for most of the women who could have been mentioned in Jesus' family tree. So it's clear, Matthew deliberately wrote the genealogy to emphasize David's sin, and we go, but why? Why open the closet? The mention of Uriah's wife begins a downward spiral in the genealogy. with a list of incredibly ungodly kings that ultimately results in God's judgment and his people being exiled from the land. Of the 14 kings listed between David and the exile, only 4 could be described as any level of good. Now remember, God's original plan had no temple and no king. Each was an accommodation to the people, to meet the people where they were at. And each created enormous, painful problems for the people because they got what they asked for. God's original plan was that he himself would be the king of Israel and that he would lead through a prophet, and that instead of a massive and permanent temple building, he would reside in a temporary, movable tabernacle. The emphasis would be completely unlike the surrounding kingdoms. All of it would be less visible, less ostentatious, less physical, and more essential, more spiritual. And that's been a huge struggle that us as humans have always had. We focus way too much on the physical, way too little on the spiritual. We can't embrace our spiritual natures because we are so tied to physical things like gold or pomp and circumstance or impressive structures. Now I want to give you the story here of one of the most significant moments in the history of humanity, certainly in the history of Israel. And we are still plagued by this. 1 Samuel chapter 8, starting at verse 1. When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as Israel's leaders. Verse 2. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second was Abijah, and they served at Beersheba. 3. But his sons did not follow his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain and accepted bribes and perverted justice. 4. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. 5. They said to him, awkwardly, "You are old. Your sons do not follow your ways. Now, appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." We want what they have. We want to be like them. We don't want to be unique. We want to just look like everyone else. 6. But when they said, "Give us a king to lead us," this displeased Samuel. And so he prayed to the Lord. 7. And the Lord told him, listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king. 8. As they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are doing to you. 9. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly and let them know what the king who will reign over them will claim as his right. And so that's what Samuel does. I hear you. He tells them that the king is going to take your children and send them to war, or he's going to cause them to work for him somewhere in his kingdom. They will become servants who have to do what he demands of them. And that will happen to you also, not just your kids. The king will take the best of your stuff in taxes and in tribute. He will take all kinds of things that are yours now for his own use. You will become, all of you, like slaves. So Samuel, the prophet that they trust and that has led them faithfully for many years, tells them their future. This is what to come. 1 Samuel 8:18. When the day comes, you will cry out for relief from the king you have chosen, but the Lord will not answer you in that day. 19. But the people refused to listen to Samuel. No, they said, we want a king over us. 20. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles. No, remember that part, okay? That was significant to them. Lock that in, remember that. 21. When Samuel heard all the people said, he repeated it before the Lord. 22. And the Lord answered, listen to them. Give them a king. And then Samuel said to the Israelites, everyone go back to your towns. Now it appears that Matthew highlighted David's sin to emphasize that even Israel's greatest king was a failure. As J. Richard Middleton notes, Matthew is not holding up David as an ideal figure. Rather, his genealogy signals a critique of David, something that becomes clear from a careful reading of his gospel. From start to finish, the monarchy, even the much touted Davidic monarchy, was essentially a failed experiment. So let's jump to the story that Matthew's referencing in his genealogy. Who's Uriah? Who's this wife? And just what was going on in this nation's history? 2 Samuel, first we were in 1 Samuel, now we're in 2 Samuel chapter 11, starting at verse 1. In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab, the general, out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah. But David remained in Jerusalem. Okay, let's pause for a moment. Do you remember what I just told you to remember? Come on, it was just a mere moment ago. When the people of Israel told Samuel that they wanted a king, do you remember what they said they wanted their king to do? Yeah. We know that a king will enslave our children. We get it. We know he's going to take over their lives and send our boys to war and our daughters to the kitchens and to the perfumery. And we know that a king will take our crops. We know he's going to take our wealth. We know that he's going to take it and make it his own. Yeah, we know all of that. But let's just jump back. 1 Samuel 8, the end of 19, going into 20. We want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and go out before us and fight our battles. Because that's what kings do. Kings lead. They don't just send their men to war. They go, they do, and lead their men. They go together. But not David. King David remained in Jerusalem. King David is only the second king in Israel's history. And by the time they get to their second king, also the king that's celebrated as their best king, he is already not doing the key thing that they asked for a king to do: to go with them, to lead them into battle. When Jesus comes as God's final king, the Messiah, one of the most repeated promises is that he will never leave us or forsake us. He goes behind and before with us. He says, I will send you the Comforter that he may abide with you forever. Truly, I will be with you until the end of the age. Emmanuel, God with us. Together is how we go. With is what we're all about. What happens when we get divided up? What happens when we don't travel this road trip in earnest pursuit together? We get left alone. And when we are left alone, we are not at our best. When we are alone, we are weaker. When we are alone, we are more susceptible to temptation. And that temptation, sin, always leads to isolation. Sin always breaks relationships. It severs, it weakens, it thins them. Sin leads to isolation, aloneness, cut off from. Now what am I going to do? I can't talk to them anymore. When we go into battle, nobody wants to go alone. In Ephesians chapter 6, some of the ladies who know what I'm going to talk about here, the Apostle Paul is teaching about preparing for spiritual warfare, and he describes it as gearing up for battle. We put on the full armor of God, and we ready ourselves. We prepare to make our stand, so that when the day of evil comes, we will be able to stand. Stand firm then. Remain obedient. Remain a faithful presence. We don't have to beat everyone down. We are just called to stand firm. Stand firm and be alert, and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. Keep all the Lord's people on your mind and in your prayers. Stand firm together. And this is how God's final king, the Christ, the Messiah, is leading us right now. So fall in line. Be ready. Be alert. Be in the spirit of prayer, and be in the spirit of prayer for each other. With and together is how we go. All right, back to King David. So right off the top, we get a hint that something's about to go off the rails. Here comes a consequence for not doing what you're supposed to do. 2 Samuel 11, now verse 2. Verse 1 was saying that he was where he shouldn't be. He was still in Jerusalem. So verse 2, one evening in Jerusalem, David got up from his bed and he started walking around on the roof of the palace. From the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful. 3, and David sent someone to go find out about her. And the man said, she is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite. She is the wife of Uriah. And that did not stop him. He's the king. He could do what he wants. He wants her. That one, right over there. That one, right on the rooftop, right there. Go get her. 4, then David sends messengers to go get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. Very abbreviated. Now she was purifying herself from her monthly uncleanness. Then she went back home. 5, the woman conceived, sent word to David saying, I'm pregnant. She did not have a choice in this story. He was the king. It's an imbalance of power. He gets what he wants and he takes what he wants. This is what a king will do. Samuel warned the people of a king's behavior. 6, so David sent this word to the general Joab. Send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent him to David. 7, when Uriah came to him, David asked, how was Joab? How were the soldiers? How is the war going? It's small talk. Hey, General Joab, send me Uriah. Uriah shows up. Sir, yes, sir, here I am, sir, reporting as you have commanded, sir. Yeah, Uriah. Thanks for coming by. Why don't you go ahead and give me a quick update on how things are going? I mean, I'm not there like I should be, so I need you to tell me what it looks like in the place where I should be. Is everything good? I mean, you're looking good. A guy like you, man, I'm so glad to have you around. I bet you're tired from all that fighting stuff, right? Why don't you just go ahead and take this weekend pass here and go home. Get yourself a proper shower and a hot meal. 8, then David said to Uriah, go down to your house and wash your feet. So Uriah left the palace, and a gift from the king was sent after him. 9, but Uriah slept at the entrance to the palace with all his master's servants and did not go down to his house. David needs Uriah to go home and to visit his wife, right? He needs Uriah to cover up for the new pregnancy of his wife. 10, David was told Uriah did not go home. So he asks Uriah, haven't you just come from a military campaign? Dude, why didn't you go home? 11, Uriah said to David, "The ark and Israel and Judah are staying in tents, and my commander Joab and my Lord's men are camped in the open country. How could I go to my house to eat and drink and make love to my wife? As surely as you live, I will not do such a thing." "Sorry, king. I will not dishonor myself or my unit or my commander by taking it easy while they are all out fighting the war that you have forced us to go and fight while you have stayed home in Jerusalem, even though that is one of your key job requirements." 12. Then David said to him, "Stay here one more day, and tomorrow I will send you back." So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day and the next. 13. At David's invitation, he ate and drank with him, and David made him drunk. But in the evening, Uriah went out to sleep on his mat among his master's servants. He did not go home, apparently not drunk enough. And David tries hard to get him to go home. But ironically, Uriah is just too loyal to King David to take advantage of the situation. 14. In the morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it with Uriah. You remember that from kindergarten? Just pinned it on his shirt. Take this. Well, I'm still going to need to fix this situation. I tried being Mr. Nice Guy, and that didn't work. So now I'm going to have to be Mr. Not So Nice Guy. Now I'm going to use my 3 Ps, my power, my prestige, and my possessions to get my way. I will come to take what I want by force. I am the king. 15. And in that letter he wrote, "Put Uriah out in front where the fighting is fiercest. Then withdraw from him, so he will be struck down and die." Man, this is not discreet at all. What an awful set of circumstances to create, and also quickly. When you start sinning, it grows and it grows and it can grow so quickly, out of control. I never meant for any of that to happen. By not using Bathsheba's name and only identifying her as Uriah's wife, in a way, Matthew was protecting her by ensuring that the blame for the monarchy's failure would fall on David, the man who abused his power, rather than the woman who was abused and his victim. Matthew's writing at a time when Jewish nationalism was at a fever pitch. Matthew's reminding his audience that all of Israel's kings had failed, and that this was the reason for their centuries of humiliation. First, that exile in Babylon, and then through a series of occupations by foreign countries: Assyria, Babylon, Syria, the Medes and the Persians and the Greeks and the Seleucids and the Romans. Although he was the son of David, Matthew was preparing his readers for Jesus to be a very different kind of king than David and all of those other kings who had preceded them. The only king that Israel was ever supposed to have. And Matthew's genealogy of Jesus continues to remind us not to put our hope in earthly kings either, or prime ministers, or presidents, or governors, or premiers, or mayors, or pastors. Only place your hope in and around the only one who is worthy of your hope and your trust. Place your hope in nothing less than Jesus' love and righteousness. The warning from before Christ remains just as true in our world. Be aware, stay alert, keep on praying for all of the Lord's people. Stand firm, because this we know. We trust you. Psalm 146, starting at verse 3. Do not put your trust in princes, in human beings who cannot save. 4, when their spirit departs, they return to the ground, and on that very day their plans come to nothing. 5, blessed are those whose help is the God of Jacob, whose hope is in the Lord their God. 6, He is the maker of heaven and earth, the sea and everything in them. He remains faithful forever. 7, He upholds the cause of the oppressed and gives food to the hungry. The Lord sets prisoners free. 8, the Lord gives sight to the blind. The Lord lifts up those who are bowed down. The Lord loves the righteous. 9, the Lord watches over the foreigner and sustains the fatherless and the widow, but He frustrates the way of the wicked. 10, the Lord reigns forever. Your God, O Zion, for all generations, praise the Lord.